I guess there's nothing quieter than a college campus when graduation ceremonies are over. Most everybody is headed home, except for a few students biding their time until the train next morning, and maybe a couple of student engineers finishing up their field work. In the dorms, you could hear a pin drop. No bull sessions on what the prof will ask on the next exam, or whether we'll win the homecoming game next Saturday. Just quiet and dark. That's the way it was the night I said goodbye to 4 years on campus. It was an early-to-bed night for me. The telegram from Bill Randall had said the dresser plane would pick me up at 7 o'clock. The last time I had seen Bill was just before Christmas. The hotel in town. Right off the bat, I told him, the last thing I want, Mr. Randall, is to be...
Call me Bill.
All right. Well, the last thing I want, Bill, is to be tied behind a desk in a manufacturing plant.
Well, I wouldn't worry about that, Scotty. Remember, Dresser is a diversified outfit that ranges into many different fields. You will have plenty of legroom to show your stuff.
Well, that's the way I like it.
And that's the way we want it, too. As you know, we're always scouting for top-flight technical men in colleges and engineering schools throughout the country. Now, before I start firing questions at you, I suppose you've got a few questions you'd like to throw my way, eh?
Right.
Such as, what's the story on the Dresser Industries?
Right again.
Fair enough. Now, I have a display here that may give you a better picture.
I don't know whether I got the picture that afternoon, but I sure made a start. Bill Randall explained how Dresser Industries is a parent company of a group that manufactures and sells a wide variety of equipment, primarily to the oil, gas, and chemical industries. Dresser products are found all along the line, from the bottom of the well to the ultimate consumer of the products of oil and gas. From the old days of the wooden rigs at Signal Hill to Saudi Arabia's prolific production of today, Dresser has always been a byword of the industry. And as I listened to Bill, I got the feeling of an alert, growing look-ahead outfit. And the more I listened, the more I liked both him and the outfit. That very night, back in my room at the dorm, I started the paperwork, filled out an application. Things moved quickly. There were more interviews, more questions, from me as well as the Dresser people. And I guess both sides were satisfied with the answers, because here I was the next morning about to meet Bill Randall again, coming to pick me up at the airport. It was good to see Bill again, but he didn't waste much time in small talk.
Scotty, I'm on a routine service operation. I just came back from our plant in Bradford, Pennsylvania. We make couplings there. Couplings for practically every type of machinery that handles liquids and gases. Now we're headed for Olean, New York. That's not too far from here. Then we'll be making more service stops en route back to Dallas. I thought this might give you a good chance to see some of our operating units in action before you get down to work.
Well, that's all right with me.
Okay, is that all your gear?
Yeah, I'm traveling light.
That's the ticket, son. Let's quit flying.
Before we had even fastened our seat belts, Bill was briefing me on the Clark operation in Olean, New York, our first destination. Clark is one of the operating units of Dresser Industries, and at the Olean plant, largest of its kind in the world, they manufacture compressors used throughout industry wherever gas needs to be compressed. As the plane headed toward Olean, I studied the material Bill gave me about the Clark operation. I was glad I did, too, because a short while later, when face to face with the complex Clark precision machinery, I had an idea what it was all about. Men were taking readings on a new type turbine, the Mark TA, used as a prime mover in many applications where power has to be generated. All over the world, wherever gas or air is compressed, chances are you'll find Clark equipment doing the job. Under the critical I'm from Missouri eyes of inspectors with many years of experience, every unit goes on the test stand for a rugged performance shakedown. Along with compressors, prime movers are important in the Clark line. I watched as the rotor blades were installed in front of a gas turbine. Then the first of two huge units was loaded aboard the turbo mobile power plant. And getting it aboard was a ticklish job, too. This baby couldn't be rushed. Mounted on rails, the unit can supply the needs of a city of 12,000 people and was developed for the government as a source of emergency power. Looking it over, I remember the cross-section I had studied on the plane. The car consists of a turbine generator. The great thing about it is that it needs only two connections to go into operation: a fuel inlet and a power output. In time of catastrophe, reestablishing the service of public utilities is a #1 priority. Clark's mobile power plant can do the job. We were soon on our way again, en route to Texas, stopping for Bill to make service calls at many cities and towns along the route. Wherever we went, Bill took time to show me how Dresser products play an important role in America's growth and development. At housing development scattered across the face of America, I saw water and gas main couplings made by Dresser. At hydroelectric plants, source of power for great cities, I saw the tremendous penstocks installed to last hundreds of years, built with Dresser couplings. In Cleveland, Ohio, we stopped at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, the top aeronautical research organization for the federal government. In the altitude wind tunnel, men were making final checks on testing connections. The altitude wind tunnel is used to test full-scale aircraft engines under pressures and temperatures simulating up to 50,000 feet. These huge exhaust blowers were specially designed and built by Dresser's Roots Connorsville division. And at a chemical plant nearby, I had a look at another type of air units, a spiraxial compressor supplying air to a gas burner. One of the stops along our route was at a pipeline compressor station in Greenville, Mississippi, where we delivered a cylinder for a Clark compressor we had picked up at Olean. And I saw how these compressors, a whole bank of them, boost the natural gas from the Gulf to the Great Lakes. Later, at a power plant in Texas, I saw a Pacific boiler feed pump, the heart of a power installation, pumping water to the thirsty boilers at the rate of a couple of thousand gallons a minute. Yes, the Pacific pump is the heart, as it is in giant oil refineries. Here, over 500 of them impel the thick, sluggish crude oil through the fractionating process. These pumps, by the way, can operate efficiently in temperatures from sub-zero to fiery heats of several hundred degrees. By now we were getting into the heart of Texas, where I soon became familiar with the name of another Dresser operating unit, Guyberson. As early as 1920, I was told, Guyberson was manufacturing special tools to control oil wells and prevent the running wild of oil or gas. The Guyberson packer has become as well known as another product of the same company, the famous Guyberson swab. This patented device removes undesirable fluids, such as salt water, mud, or acid, which must be cleaned out before a well can be brought in. I was seeing a lot, learning a lot, and by interesting stages we were moving deeper into oil country. This was my first good look at a drilling rig, and it was on wheels. The Rambler rig, designed for shallow drilling and built by Idaco, another dresser outfit. It's completely portable. That is, it can be moved along any highway without giving state troopers the jitters. I had checked my watch out at the location when they started rigging up. Just under 3 hours later, they were in business. The next morning at the Jennings field, we checked drilling progress on a Super 711 rig. One thing struck me here in the oil country. The Idaco units seemed to be almost a part of the landscape. With a hand from Security, another of the Dresser family, this contractor was digging for deeper stuff. Imagine, a field which has been active and a steady producer since 1901. In the afternoon, we had an important call that was to show me how Dresser companies work together as a team. A security engineer had picked us up at a nearby airstrip and took us on a service call over in the Louisiana swamp country. Looming up above us was Idaco's 2500 rig with a full view mast. It looked as though they were all set for some deep drilling. But as luck would have it, just at this minute, things weren't going so well. Something was definitely wrong. I found out what it was a moment later when we went up to the drilling rig floor. After introductions all around, the tool pusher told us about his problem. It didn't seem to faze our security friend, who was at home with all kinds of headaches. The tool pusher, the supervisor of drilling operations, is the man with the immediate responsibility. He showed us the lineup of bits he had been using. Security engineering makes a rock bit for every kind of digging. Hard rock, shale, sand, you name it. The tool pusher told us the digging had been mostly soft shale. When the shale sticks, the bit loses cutting efficiency and speed, and the drilling makes very slow progress, almost none. And I knew enough about oil drilling to know delays were very expensive. And that was why the tool pusher didn't look too happy. Just then I heard a noise coming from the road. The tool pusher knew, and I found out soon enough. The trucks meant a supply of drilling mud. Specially treated mud is used in huge quantities in every drilling operation. Its weight serves to keep the well under control as drilling encounters high-pressure gas formations. Russ Clinton was from Magabar, still another Dresser division. Magabar specializes in drilling mud products, and Bill Randall took time out to fill me in on the importance of mud in drilling a well.
Scotty, the mud is forced down the drill stem to the bottom where it picks up the cuttings and carries them up to the surface. Drilling would be almost impossible without it. And there have been cases where hard-headed businessmen have anteed up to $500,000 for mud enough just for one well. Now, as important to the driller as this specially treated mud is the mud engineer from Magabar. The oil well MDs, as we call them, are always just a phone call away from a drilling problem. By analyzing the mud as well as the look of the cuttings, these fellas can tell pretty much what's going on down there, thousands of feet below. The mud doctor gives his diagnosis and recommends a cure, which is followed through on the double. A new bit is installed, a security jet rock bit designed to maintain clean cutting teeth and speed up penetration. But the bit cannot do the job alone. The shale sticks clogs the action, so our friend Russ Clinton, the mud doctor, calls for reinforcements on his radio telephone, which arrive within the hour. This is a chemical emulsifier called Speedy Drill. This stuff chemically disperses the sticky clods that hang on the bit and eliminates the clogging action of the sticky shale.
And a half an hour later, when Russ Clinton made another analysis of the cuttings and the mud, okay this time. The cuttings drawn up with the mud action showed that the bit was now making whole again. It was good to see the tool pusher push back his hat and relax. Waiting for Bill to return to the car, I began to understand the meaning of teamwork. One dresser outfit working with another. Experts in specific fields brought together so the combination of ability and know-how can iron out problems on the job. Bill had to look at an offshore drilling rig about 4 hours by boat from Morgan City. So he went by helicopter, out over the Bayou country, where I was struck by a strange sight on the marsh below. Trails leading through the marshlands. From above, they looked like automobile tracks. But funny thing, they led to the water and that was the end. Bill explained. They were marsh bucky tracks. Seismograph crews had moved out there to search for indications of oil and had found nothing. Trails leading nowhere. That's what they were. We always seem to think of the search for oil in terms of hits, striking it. Well, here were the strikeouts. We continued on until we reached open water, out beyond the shipping lanes, out of sight of land. Using radio telephone, Bill had kept in touch with the offshore drilling platform as it moved out to sea. Here was the latest and the biggest in offshore drilling platforms. After being towed out to sea, it is capable of working in 70 feet of water. Idaho seemed to be in on this rig, too. We swung back toward the delta, and the helicopter dropped us near a boat landing. After transferring our gear, we soon headed out to sea to join a seismic exploration crew, working far out in the Gulf. We made our rendezvous with the crew at dawn and found them already at work. Bill pointed out the recording boat, one of the 2 boats involved. I could see the cables paying out over the stern.
Connie, what you see ahead there is going to be more and more important, because offshore is where more and more of tomorrow's oil is coming from. That recording boat out there is dragging over half a mile of cable.
What's she doing exactly?
Making an underground contour map which will tell us if the formations below are the kind that have gas or oil. Say, take a look at this diagram. You might as well begin learning the oil business from the bottom down. The recording boat is, well, kind of stethoscope for old Father Neptune. At 100-foot intervals on that cable are sensitive microphones, geophones we call them. Millions of dollars worth of drilling may be spent or saved on the strength of what they hear. In the recording boat are recorders and amplifiers manufactured by one of the Dresser Industries, Southwestern Industrial Electronics, the famous SIE. One recording crew can easily use $100,000 worth of seismic equipment. A good investment, though, because modern instrumentation can improve the chances of finding oil by 50%. Now, there's another boat involved, the shooting boat. A man heaves a canister of dynamite off the stern, and away she goes. The attached balloon suspends the charge just below the surface. At that instant, word is flashed by radio to the recording boat. And then... the blast radiates energy in all directions for thousands of feet. And wherever there's a change in the formation, the energy reflects upward and is detected by the geophones, where the signal from each one is recorded by the instruments on the recording boat. And what you end up with is a record of the geological formations below. When properly interpreted, these records can tell us whether or not the structure is favorable to the accumulation of oil. But Scotty, you don't get the idea that these instruments and all this technical stuff have taken all the ifs out of the search for oil. There's still only one final answer, the drilling bit.
But they're a big help, though. At least they locate the area of promise, right?
Well, the oil industry seems to think so. Over $300 million a year is spent to get leads that way. Most of them through SIE instruments. Say, it's getting late. We better be getting back. We've got an appointment tonight.
Well, what's on tap for tomorrow?
You'll see. I think I'm going to surprise you.
Bill was right. He did surprise me. The next day was Sunday, and we were guests at the home of friends of his, Lou and Mary Oliver. Lou was with Lane Wells, Dresser's experts in well logging and gun perforating. But nobody was talking shop today, for Lou had just come off a job and wanted to relax. Mary was glad her husband was home instead of wrestling with a problem out on a bayou somewhere. And me, I had crammed so much information into my head the past 10 days, I'd just as soon give it a rest. Bill must have thought I needed one. So this was just a relaxing afternoon, until... Mary seemed to know what was coming. The call was from the Lane Wells shop. There was a deep well ready to be perforated about 80 miles down the delta, and Lou was wanted in a hurry. We left Mary with an awful lot of steak and drove back to the Lane Wells yard at Harvey. The men were shaping up the gear when we arrived. Gun perforating. You might say that's the name of the game for Lane Wells. Bill explained how perforating is a decisive step in completing a well and showed me how the gun device is loaded. This charge is called a cone shot. Casing is set through the oil-bearing formation and cemented at the specified depth. The gun is lowered into the hole and by firing bullets, or by other means, perforates the casing so that the oil can come in at a selected point. Finally, the guns were loaded and the truck was ready. And we moved out. Hours later, we were deep in the delta. As the tug eased our cargo through the marsh country, I was impressed with how the oil man's ingenuity had brought so much from so little. For here was the world's deepest hole, a year in the drilling, 4 miles deep, the famous Richardson Bass rig. After the gun has been hoisted to the derrick floor, it is armed. The equipment is rugged, has to be. It's 340 degrees at the bottom, with pressures ranging up to 20,000 pounds. Then comes the job of lowering the gun 4 miles into the earth. Bill and I stood by inside the truck. It takes hours to lower the gun. Down, down, 4 long miles down. It was interesting to know how Lane Wells knew when to stop, how they knew exactly where the most productive zone of a well was. The answer was in a radioactivity log made a week before, which gives the expert a very good idea of what lies below.
Hi, fellas.
Hi, Harold. How are you?
All right, where are we?
We're now at 21601, Harold, which would be the right position for shooting.
Okay, fire away.
Sitting at 21601, is that correct?
That is correct. Shoot it.
Give me the rig safety switch.
Switch is on.
That was it. Perforation at 21,600 feet. Over 4 miles beneath the surface of the Earth, setting a new record in the history of deep well drilling.
Well, there it is, Harold.
Oh, that's the deepest one shot yet, fellas.
How you like it, Scotty?
It's all right. Bill and I got a ride back to New Orleans in a helicopter. It was the last leg of my trip with Bill. From there, I was heading for Dallas and Dresser Industries to start my job. A lot of things were running through my mind, intermingling, a little confused. And then I saw something and it all began to make sense. What I saw were the marsh buggy tracks leading nowhere, the strikeouts, the dry holes, the failures of the oil business. But over toward the north, I saw a rig in operation, smack in the middle of all the misses, the disappointments, the dry holes of the past. I knew what that meant. Modern instrumentation had made it possible for oil men to go back, try again with a better idea of what lies under the ground, and maybe a real strike. That's another one of the pluses of an outfit like Dresser. By developing new, efficient techniques for exploring and drilling for oil, our national reserves have been tremendously expanded. I thought about all this as the whirly bird moved past the rig below, taking me toward my job and my future.